c'è. Io faccio questa presentazione, poi c'è non vuole poco più di ok.
Buon pomeriggio, professore, tutti.
Ciao Michele.
Ciao.
Okay, we are connected. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, for this meeting release about innovation and sustainability. We are in the Aula Magna of Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna, and in connection we have a representative of spin-off, one of our spin-off of Sant'Anna, Michele Barberio. I start with my presentation about innovation and sustainability, a challenging opportunity for the third millennium. The first step is to share with you a definition of sustainability. This is a typical representation in 3 dimensions. Sustainability means to link together the economic dimension with the social one and the environmental one, thinking to a new model, because we needed to find a way to afford 3 crises, three crises, one economic crisis together with the social crisis and the environmental one. Why? Because since 2008, the world lives in a structural economic crisis in which we need to transform radically the perspective. We have to think to a balanced and lasting view of the economic growth. And we have to think to the resources, the stock of capital for the next generation. You know that very old but almost used definition of sustainability was made by Gro Brundtland in 1987. And the definition of sustainability is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So we have to think to our children, our nephews, in a perspective in which we have to maintain resources for them. And this is not only in the economic perspective, but also in the social perspective. Now we live also a social crisis. The new generations know that their life is could be different without the same opportunities that we had. And we have to think about the possibility to maintain the social capital linked to education, linked to health, linked to the possibility to improve the well-being. And so we need a new economic model that takes into consideration also the social dimension. And at the same time, also the environmental capture, the ecosystem services. So the possibility to guarantee for future generation also this kind of resources. In other terms, sustainability means to think to the future, putting together all the dimensions of the well-being. And to do this, we need the capacity to think in a systemic way, putting together the results in economic activities, the attention on equity, on the quality of life, and the attention on the natural capital. This is a big challenge, and the situation is not so good. Considering the three dimensions, we can put in this graph, in which using Human Development Index, a typical index devised by UN, we can take together social and economic dimension, considering health, education from the social perspective, and GDP per capita for the economic dimension. And we have multiple index coming from 0 to 1. And in the right part of the graph, we have the countries with quite good, very high human development. The major part of these countries are Western countries, European countries. And in the left part of the graph, we have African countries, with a strong pressure to improve, moving on the right side of the graph, the quality of life, the well-being. But if we consider the third dimension, environmental dimension, using another indicator, the environmental footprint, in this case connected to the availability of soil, fertile soil in the world, we have a connection between the quality of life and the consumption of resources. So we, living in Western countries, to stay well, we use a lot of resources. And more that the availability of the earth. The line, the first line in 1961 shows that we had 3.6 hectares per person 6 years ago, and the half, 1.8 hectares per person in 2011. Now 1.6, and the availability is not enough for the needs of the present population, and the situation will be forced for the next generations. So the question is to change completely the way of production and consumption. We have to reduce our footprint. And this is necessary also to discuss together with other countries. In a few days, we will be in Dubai for the COP28, and it's not easy to afford people coming from the other part of the world when they looking for better quality of life, and we ask for a commitment to global warming or to the use of resources. About the evolution at the time connected to the relationship between technology and innovation and sustainability. We started more than 60 years ago when there was a positive approach, a trust in the role of technology. Technology can solve the problem of availability of resources. But some environmentalists began to understand that there is a problem in the model of development. The first book about it was made by Rachel Carson, Silent Spring. A spring silent because the use of DDT created a complete destruction in the nature. But we have to wait 1972 for the first conference on environment, human environment, in Stockholm. And 50 years ago started the debate on the limit to growth in the context of dispute between economy and technology, with a negative approach about the capacity to maintain together environmental issues and the development, the economic development. Technology was a threat in this field. And in 15 years, at the international level, UN defined a concept of sustainable development that we discussed before, to try to define a settlement of the dispute between economy and ecology. And the most important international occasion in this field was the Rio Conference of 1992, the Conference on Sustainability. And in this conference, we find a lot of general commitment. Was a good period in the multilateral international approach, because it was possible to create a long-term vision of the future of sustainability. We had the Rio Declaration, sort of a constitution about the environment, and also Agenda 21, a big document about many challenges: global warming, biodiversity, water, and so on. So, more than 40 years ago, we had a vision, a strategy. But in the years after 1992, was very difficult to find a real solution in this pattern. At the end of the millennium, the last millennium, UN decided to engage also companies, business actors. Kofi Annan went to Davos, in which each year there is the World Economic Forum, asked for a global compact between UN and business community. I propose that you, the business leader, and we, the United Nations, initiate a global compact of shared values and principles to change the perspective of the world economy in the direction of sustainability. So was another step in the direction of sustainability. These are some figures about global compact: more than 2,000 companies in the world, in 160 countries, with the local 60 local networks that operate to apply this vision. And after, in the present millennium, what happened in the direction of sustainability and the relation between sustainability and innovation? We had the first period, more than 10 years, in which there was a lack of international commitment, but with an emerging role of business actors. So, a problem from the institutional side, but a gradual engagement of business actors, and also a growth in consumer awareness in this field. The UN decided to organize a second important international conference in 2012, Rio +20, to relaunch the international commitment on sustainability, engaging different actors to work together. It was a period of the introduction of the concept of green economy in 2011-2012. Then we had, in 2019, the European Green Deal. I think that this is very important to understand the evolution in the policies in this period. And together with the Agenda 2030, represent the framework for the present commitment in this field. Considering the sustainable innovation, the connection between sustainability and innovation, we have to consider a lot of dimensions. There is an operational dimension connected to new technologies in renewables, new technologies in circularity, and so on. But we need also the capacity to enhance collaboration between different actors in a multi-stakeholder perspective. Organizational solution, instrumental solutions about resource efficiency mainly. But in general, an holistic and systemic view to drive the change. Some of those aspects was present in the Euro Plus 20 conference, in which we had to add the institutional conference with the Corporate Sustainability Forum organized by UN, with more than 120 special commitments dedicated to the different dimensions of sustainability. But the question is to change the model. So what the concept of green economy, an economy that results in improved human well-being and social equity, while significantly reduce environmental risk and ecological scarcity, is connected to a low-carbon, resource-efficient, and socially inclusive economy. So this is a new view of the economy, but we need also something more concrete. And the perspective of circularity give us some operational perspective, because circular economy means an economy that is regenerative by design. So we have to think at the beginning of the product, of the process, that the possibility to recover, to maintain in the economy the products with a long life, but also to recover part component. The circular perspective is a sort of closed loop in which we maintain resources, reducing the virgin raw material that we take from the earth. And the other framework is the Agenda 2030. UN in 2015 decided to change completely the perspective. In the left part of the graph, you can find the old framework, agenda of UN, since 2000 to 2015. Very social perspective, with a strong attention on health, on education, on poverty, considering mainly the undeveloped countries. The new agenda is related to social dimension, maintain the attention on this perspective, first line, but also in the second line, economic perspective, and in third line, environmental issues. To improve in general, involving different actors, the economy and then society in the world. And we have innovation in the SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. We need sustainable infrastructure. We have innovation in the goal 12, responsible production and consumption, in the 7th, affordable and clean energy. So the innovation is a way to go in the direction of sustainability, the main goal. The business community contribute. Over 7,000 companies have signed up the business ambition for 1.5 degrees to maintain the temperature on the world under 1.5 degrees. 83% of companies have gender embedded in their sustainability plans. 83% of the Global Compact participants. There is a strong attention on clean water and also about the young innovators. But considering also this increased level of participation of business, for example, in the field of the climate change challenge, the situation is not so good. The world is not on track to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. And we have some figures about the delay that we have, considering the 2030 perspective. So we have to do more and more to be on track. And what ask business actors to policymakers? And who are the most important actors for companies? Consumers, firstly, but there is also in the last time, in the last year, an increase in the trust of institutions. This is quite particular because in the last 15 years, the institution lost a lot of credibility. But probably, considering especially the European perspective, there is a strong improvement in the recognition by companies of the role of institutions. And the companies ask for the participation of institutions, for example, to align national determined contribution to 1.5 perspective. So the decarbonization processes, or to standardize ESG reporting frameworks, environment, social, and governance frameworks. So companies ask for regulation, but good regulation in the direction of the change. And this is, I think, the most important act in Europe in the last 70 years. So the European Green Deal. The European Green Deal, there is a big challenge. Europe wants to transform the European economy for a sustainable future. I want to base this change to an European Climate Pact. So the first transition to go in this direction is increasing the European climate ambition for 2030 and 2050. Europe decided to net zero in 2050, but define also an intermediate step in 2030. 55% of reduction of CO2 emissions in 2030 in comparison with 1999. So this big change is connected to an energy transition and circular economy transition, a capacity to build a more efficient infrastructure and buildings in Europe, also considering the natural capital, ecosystem and biodiversity, restoring an agriculture chain from farm to fork, and a new sustainable and smart mobility system. Europe put a lot of the economic resources, but need also a strong participation of the private finance in this challenge. And we have a lot of evidences that this plan made at the beginning of the government in Europe, von der Leyen leaded, a lot of act, some very recent, in all of the transition that we described. So Europe also, in the period of the pandemic, created a strong legislation in this direction. And what's about innovation from the side of the digitalization and so on, the other big transformation that Europe wants to support? The last year we had the Industry 4.0 policy, also in Italy, probably the only industrial strong policy in the last 30 years. But in Europe, there is already the discussion about Industry 5.0, in which the attention on digitalization is connected to the attention of sustainability and human-centric perspective. So we have to link together, in the perspective of Europe, the goal, sustainability, and also the attention of the human dimension with the possibility created by technologies. So this is the perspective in which we think to the next future. Last slide about main challenges for the European sustainability policies. The first one is it's about finance. In the last 5 years, finance discovered the relevance of sustainability and decided that it's very important to select projects considering this dimension, because it's relevant in terms of resilience of the economies, but also resilience of companies, actors. And so Europe tried to define rules also in this field. The European taxonomy. What is really green? What is necessary for this kind of transformation? The second point, it's about accountability of business actors, the CSRD directive. In this case, with specific, also mandatory action to be accountable with the reporting in the activity that business actors make. The third point is about the capacity to extend this commitment from big companies to the SMEs, the backbone of Europe and the Italian economy. In this case, there is a proposal of a directive about the due diligence along the supply and the value chains. So big companies have to engage suppliers to respect a lot of ESG, environmental, social, and governance issues. And first about consumers. There is an increase of attention by consumers, but we need something to define what is really good and what is greenwashing. Because if you see advertising, you can understand the level of use of environmental claims to communicate the importance, the commitment of company. But in some cases, this is greenwashing. So Europe defined a directive about the prevention of greenwashing and the ways to provide better information to consumers, to address the choices. Also in this case, the use of digital technologies would be very important. Communicate, for example, the traceability of products to the consumer. And also this is a perspective in which technology and sustainability will be a part of our vision of the future. As European, I think we have a very good framework now, but the pathway is very, very thanks. And I think to pass the role to Michele Barberio by Ergo. Michele, please.
Okay, thank you, Marco, for passing me the stage, and good evening to everybody. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for the invitation as well to talk about our experience with sustainability. Let me briefly introduce myself. I am responsible for the development of Ergo business. So I'm coordinating the very diverse activities and services which Ergo is offering to its clients and the companies we are working with. It is important also that I present briefly Ergo and what Ergo is, because much of what I'm saying in the next few minutes is related to the nature of Ergo, of our company. And I will present also our experience with sustainability, and by presenting what is our perception of how companies are interpreting sustainability in their innovation strategies. Ergo was born something like 15 years ago, around 2006, upon the initiative of professors and researchers at the Sant'Anna School. And over the time, the company has grown and enlarged the number and type of services provided in the realm of sustainability. Ergo is a consultancy company in the sector of sustainability management consultancy, working with a diverse set of organizations, from small and medium enterprises to big corporations, and also spanning across the very diverse sectors. Ergo has grown over the time, as I was saying, and nowadays we can boast around 50 employees, between employees and collaborators, actually. And we are very proud to be quite a young company, because the average age is around 36 and 37 in our company. And also we are even more proud to be a female company. Let me use this term because around 58% of our employees and collaborators are female. So as I will explain or briefly, unfortunately, mention later on in the presentation, which I will show, gender equality is one of the aspects of sustainability, and this was also very well mentioned by Professor Frey when he showed that we still missing hundreds of years to fulfill the gender gap, unfortunately. I I want to present this slide, which I'm now showing, which is about what the service that we offer. Not because I don't want this to be taken as a promotional spot for Ergo. This is not the intent of this presentation, but because this is, according to me, an indicator of what companies which are dealing with sustainability and sustainable innovation today are asking to consultancies like Ergo, and this is also to provide the message that consultancy is an enabler for sustainability innovations of company. It is a matter of developing skills within organization, but also of taking and using skills which are outside the company in a strategic and effective way in order to achieve sustainability objectives. As you can see, here is very well shown that we provide service in lifecycle management, so lifecycle assessment. I will mention this later on and explain briefly what it is about. Eco design, which was mentioned by Professor Frey when he was talking about innovation by design, or about circular economy. And green marketing, because much of the transparency and communication of companies about sustainability is based on green marketing, or let's say ethical marketing and communication. But we also provide sustainability management and ESG services, performance assessment of performances. We provide guidance on strategy and action plans, reporting, support on ESG and finance, decarbonization, diversity, equity and inclusion, and so on. Circular economy assessment, and also help to organizations to improve their performance in terms of circularity by helping them establishing action plans. And last but not least, all services related to HEC and HEC and quality operation. This is a core and strategic group of services for Ergo. This is the most ancient, the first among the services that we've been offering, and we will see as these health and safety, for example, issues are very central to for sustainability strategies of companies nowadays. Let me specify one important thing, which is coming out very clearly from Professor Frey's presentation a few minutes ago, that sustainability is nowadays a paradigm that is investing society, business, and people completely in a holistic approach. And this is the best interpretation that policymakers and best practices in the management of sustainability are giving us. So this is the message also that we are giving to companies that we're working with. So considering sustainability as a transformative exercise, which is, of course, which has to be taken, of course, seriously by the company itself within the organization, but also managed outside the company in order to consider to have positive effects, impacts, and spin-offs on society and people, and of course the environment. Nowadays, this is also related to Kofi Annan's call on businesses to act, that Professor Frey presented before. Sustainability is the backbone of firms' current innovation strategy. So, being sustainability transformative in nature for organization, of course, sustainability is driving innovation today, and has become the focus of any innovation strategies of company, because the world is facing a lot of challenges which are very complex, and very much of innovations in terms of processes, of products and services. Organizational innovations is required by businesses if they want to really address these complex and tough challenges that we are facing. And as public resources are more and more limited, very much is called on the action of the businesses, and of course of our action as individuals. And we also have as consumers an influence on what companies are doing and putting in place to address sustainability issues. What are the drivers of sustainable innovations to companies? We have said that they are at the center of the policies as they have been managed and set up by policymakers. But it is also a way for organizations themselves, for companies themselves, to address the risk for companies and for company activities related to sustainability. Risk of non-compliance with policies and regulation, which may be binding and also voluntary. Risk in terms of reputation and need to meeting the expectation of stakeholders. As I was saying before, stakeholders is made up of is a term which comprises a lot of actors. We citizens and consumers are among these actors, but there are also communities, suppliers, clients, the finance, and so on. So there is a lot of pressure nowadays on the businesses to address sustainability, and also to provide for sustainability innovations, because much of their reputation is related to how they are acting in terms of sustainability. Consumers changing their habits, rising financial costs, for example, due to weather events. If you think, for example, at insurance costs on assets, for example, and the damage that can be, then this kind of asset can suffer from extreme weather events, or resources costs, energy costs, and so on. And the need, of course, to ensure business continuity. Enhancing the relationship with stakeholders. You may know that companies are at the center of a very complex ecosystem of actors, which are called internal stakeholders, and including shareholders, and external stakeholders, which have expectations towards company. Okay, internal stakeholders are owners, of course, and employees. This is very relevant to be stressed, because much of sustainability and innovation strategies and approaches of companies nowadays need to be addressed also in terms of workforce. We will see this in a few minutes. And also a very diverse range of external stakeholders, such as customers, suppliers, investors, creditors, the media, the communities, the governments, and the trade unions. And much of the success of the sustainability innovation performed by companies depends on the relations that companies establish with this very diverse range of stakeholders. So effective stakeholder engagement and management means better crisis responses, for example, better business continuity, better management of risk, and so better sustainability of objectives and results. And of course, there is a competitive advantage also for companies which are addressing sustainable innovation in the right way. New product lines, addressing market needs. Remember, before we were talking about consumers shifting their consuming habits. Okay, so this opens the possibility for companies to address meeting these expectations by consumers, improve reputation, and so increase the value of the brand, better efficiency and lower cost. And for example, what was mentioned before in terms of circular economy, a better use and keeping the value of natural resources within the manufacturing process over and over, so minimizing wastes and and also creating value in the long term, having a lower impact on nature. New business models, for example, services, focusing on services instead of on focuses on products. And last but not least, the attraction and retention over time of talented, highly skilled and motivated workforce. These drivers, which have been presented here, are not only based on literature, of course, which is providing much of evidence of how on what are the drivers for sustainable innovations of businesses, but also on our experience as consultancy. For example, when we work with companies on their reporting and disclosure initiatives, on their sustainability reporting and disclosure initiatives, so they are describing very well what is pushing them to invest and to address sustainable innovation. So this is empiric evidence that I'm bringing to you according to our experience. But how it is important to specify, according to me, and based on what is ergo experience, what is the difference between traditional innovation, okay, which is mostly based on research and development, and it is focused more is the responsibility of the research and development department or units or experts. And what is the nature of sustainability-driven innovation? Well, sustainability innovation is a measure of corporate culture. It means that it shall be deeply embedded in the firm's culture. So it shall be embedded in what we call the deep purpose of organizations, so in the mission, in the vision, within across all the entire organizational structure. And we are seeing this while working with the organization. Those companies we're working with that have embedded coherently and deeply sustainability within the, starting from the mission and the vision of the company, so in the corporate culture, are achieving their results, their objectives in a faster and more effective way. The difference, though, is mostly on the corporate culture and the changes that this produces within the organization in terms of organizational practices, organizational structure, and so on. Starting from the corporate strategy, starting from the governance of the company, so establishing committees or very clear responsible at the higher governing, at the level of the higher governing bodies in order to address sustainability, engaging in new ways of new relationship with clients, and also by means of reinventing or transforming the products that companies are offering through process of innovations, efficiency, effective use of natural resources, and so on. Addressing human resources in terms of their capacity, skills, abilities, and not also making them an effective tool, an instrument for achieving organizational objectives while guarantee their satisfaction and motivation within the company, and also with an eye on financial results and performance, because of course growing and healthy organizations and companies from the financial and economic point of view have the possibility to achieve financial sustainability objective in a better way. If we look at the product level, sustainability innovation happens when the product is conceived since the design phase, as was very well described by Professor Trey in his presentation. And the product is designed, manufactured, serviced, and managed, taking into account sustainability, sustainable factors along its entire life cycle, okay, until the end of life phase. So after this introductory consideration, what are actually companies doing today in terms of innovation? And these are what are the goals that they are aiming at achieving with sustainability innovation? Well, this is a set of non-exhaustive set, of course, of and generic set of sustainability goals, and innovation is very much concentrated in these topics. As far as environmental, of course, sustainability is concerned, you see that climate change is on top of company action plans for sustainability, company strategies, achieving carbon neutrality or net zero, which is more strict than carbon neutrality because it is directly linked to policy, international policies such as the Paris Agreement, and it's based on a more strict scientific approach than carbon neutrality. Energy efficiency, which is very much related to decarbonizations or achieving carbon neutrality and net zero, and circular economy, which was described before and which is very functional to company strategies to achieve efficiency in the use of resources. All these objectives are really innovative, and this is the frontier of sustainability innovation nowadays after decades of focus by companies and organizations on their on what is called the company organization's gate, so the factory, let's say, of the company. So concentrating on the inner impacts of the company, but now the vision is moving outside the company, along with the internal, of course, in order to consider the entire value chain, or what is now called the value web. So the very complex and diverse range of actors which help the company creating the value, the value that is presenting, that is providing to the market. So this is to be put within what is called system thinking. So sustainability should be thought in a holistic way and a systemic way in order to address all the issues, that social, environmental, and social impacts related to the creation of value, which has the company at the center, of a web, of a net of other actors which shall be engaged in order to minimize the environmental and social impact. So what is this is meaning for companies? What are companies doing and asking us to help them doing? So finding ways to work with suppliers, to clients, or customers and consumers, and the wide range communities and the wide range of actors I was talking before, in order, which are crucial to the value chain, in order to understand what are the environmental and social impacts of their products and services throughout their entire life cycle. That's the reason why we're talking about suppliers, and that's the reason why we're talking about customers and consumers as well, which are at the extremes of the life cycle. Identifying the impacts and then identify those hotspots. So the zones of intervention, the intervention point within the value chain that present the greatest potential to reduce their impact. And how are the companies doing this practically? Well, these are some of the services that we are providing them, or the help that we are providing companies to address of these complex realm of issues. I have mentioned before life cycle assessment, which is one of the approaches that we are working most with companies to determine what are the eco profiles of products and services and services in order to measure on a life cycle assessment based approach. Okay, so taking into consideration the impacts and the environmental impacts in this case along the entire life cycle, using international standards, well-recognized standards, and science-based standards. This is very important because there are lots of approaches which are now out there in the market, but only few are really science-based and reliable. This is the term, the concept. The approach should be to determine impact shall be reliable. Once the impacts identified and so the hotspot for intervention identified, develop a collaborative approach in that holistic approach we were mentioning before. So work with suppliers, work with logistic operators, with recyclers, if we take into consideration the end of life phase, for example, in order not only to manage the bulk of data which are needed to conduct a life cycle assessment, but also to identify the actions needed, interventions needed within the company and along the value chain to address the environmental and social impact. Or build alliances in order to develop, for example, new technologies or new processes and also putting into place investments, for example, in new factories, innovative factories, and address issues along the value chain. Or manufacturers offering service-based approaches, for example, instead of focusing everything on selling a product. Some companies are shifting their interest and their core business on services related to products, for example, in collaboration with actors along the value chain, and taking taking under their management aspects related, for example, to a replacement of the product when it's finished and it's over, or recycling the product, so working with recyclers, for example, and logistic operators, and so on. So these are examples of how companies are interpreting sustainable innovation today across the value chain. This is a very important thing which I'm now presenting here, that sustainability is not only environmental. Of course, in the environment was the first dimension to be addressed, the most urgent, and still nowadays it is in sustainability strategies of companies the most relevant. But here the perception is shifting too, because sustainability is also about the people. Now, this is very clearly stated by the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and by all international policies about sustainability. Not only the environment, but people shall be also at the center of sustainability innovation. And very much of the organizational innovation of companies is related to its workforce. And it's demanding here as well a holistic approach to human capital management. So the human capital is at the center of sustainability approaches of companies. Very much of companies' innovation depends on it, of how employees are engaged, are safe. Remember the health and safety issues we were talking, I was mentioning at the beginning, and also satisfied with the job. And this is critical because very much of the potential of companies to achieve their sustainability objectives is related to how engaged, safe, and satisfied, and prepared, and skilled, and motivated are their people, and also for having at hand the needed know-how to address and manage the very complex and diverse challenges posed by sustainability management and innovations related to sustainability management. So managerial and operational know-how. So sustainability is about the workforce. Much depends on it. Much of the success of companies in sustainable innovation depends on people. But what is it about? What can companies do in order to address the sustainability of their workforce? Well, there is a lot of issues which have the impacts also of organizational changes. Fair pay, so how remuneration policies are actually implemented. if they are fairly implemented within companies. Flexibility and protection of people, health and safety issues. This is very central. These are all indicators, for example, and the health and safety above all, indicators of the ESG rating of companies, of the sustainability and reporting and transparency exercises of companies. So these are very much attention by stakeholders. Diversity and inclusion, equity and inclusion. So, for example, how the gender issues are addressed by company is there any gender pay gap? Is there any gender gap in the career policies or career opportunities within the company? How is age considered within the sustainability and human resources approaches and strategies of companies? And please take note that all these aspects have an impact on the company business continuity, on the company reputation, ability to retain the talents and achieve its objectives. And also it's a matter of skills, so employability and learning culture. So much of the sustainable innovation within companies today depends on skills. There is a lot of research and also surveys showing that companies are nowadays striving to include sustainability know-how and competencies and skills within the company, effectively integrate, but also to keep and retain these competencies over time. So much of the innovation by sustainable innovation companies today is interpreted in terms of corporate culture, in terms of eco design and circular economy, as we've seen before, and also in terms of workforce and how ready is my workforce and so my company to help and to deal with sustainability challenges. So my presentation stops here. I'm open to question, of course, if you have any.
Thank you, Michele. You decline a lot of suggestions that I introduced in the previous speech. So I think that the connection between company operating in the sector, mainly the consultancy perspective, and our general vision is very connected. So I ask for questions, comments by the audience. Someone want to ask something? Okay, we check also online if there are some. I have a question for you, Michele. In the last slide, you introduced also the work dimension. What you do about gender? Because in Italy, there is a quite particular institutional approach, because Italy, very long away from the target diversity. I think in Italy, we did something that 250 years to reach the balance between the gender. But Italian government decided 2 years ago to introduce a certification for the gender balance. Do you are working on it?
Yes, we are working a lot on it because there is very much of attention by companies. Even first of all, because this is one of the typical indicators that ESG and sustainability rating reporting are demanding to companies. So nowadays, companies are faced with the challenge, with the opportunity to demonstrate that they are acting and that their numbers, indicators in terms of gender of gender management within the company, within the organization is at stake when we are talking about sustainability. And also because there is very much to do still in the gender in order to close the gender gap. Just let me mention this data, Marco, that according to the gender index of the World Business Council, we are World Business Council. Yes, we are. Italy is at the around 18th position in the world, according to the on topics such as the gender equality, and we are with at the same level of countries such as Mongolia, Uzbekistan. So this is not very much something to be proud for Italy. So there is very much to do, of course. Very much has been done in the latest years, but this is the reason why the national government and also in the especially in the PNRR, so which is the most important public investment plan, also supported by the European Commission and aligned with the objectives of the just transition and which is part of the Green Deal we were presenting before, has dedicated a specific mission of the National Plan for Recovery, dedicated to the gender, to closing the gap. So the gender, closing the gap, gender equality is a mainstream topic, a mainstream issue to be addressed with all in all investment and when using public funds and projects of companies. What we are doing, yes, the certification is one of the instruments introduced by the government in 2022. It is based on a set of indicators and of guidelines, very quite easy to be understood and used by companies. But of course, much of the work is that of establishing a management system for gender equality, which has to be established and maintained over time, but also to measure the initial performance and then keep measuring the performance over time in order to access the certification and maintain the certification. So we are helping companies to measure their performance. We have developed a specific tool only based on the KPIs identified by the and provided by the national guidelines I was talking about, and helping them establishing and building a management system for gender equality within the organization. This meaning that they have to appoint a specific responsibility within bodies or individual responsibility to manage these issues within the company, engage the leadership, engage the higher level of the governing bodies in order to create engagement and leadership within the company on this issue, and of course a set of procedures to manage the entire life cycle of an employee, and in each aspect of the life cycle of human resources management, gender equality shall be an element, should be a factor that should be to be considered when defining policies and in terms of remuneration, for example, careers, in terms of responsibilities, participation to external events. All these elements should be informed by gender equality. It's not easy. But we are working with very responsive organizations which have understood that gender equality and taking care of the workforce, or considering this aspect of the workforce, can be effective for their sustainability goals.
Okay, thanks a lot. We don't have other comments or questions. So I think that we can close the seminar, the session. Thanks a lot for the participation here and outside.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.